Hare Krishna. Welcome back everyone to the daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books, where we concentrate on reading Srila Prabhupada's books, including his purports, and we read as much as possible, as long as we can, for an hour or so. And then we have reflections and discussions, and it's a very nice thing to do. We hope you're all enjoying it as well as we are. Sanatana Goswami, we read the prayer glorifying the Srimad-Bhagavatam, where we're reading from today, and we have been for some time. Srimad-Bhagavatam is 18,000 verses long, so it takes a while to get through it. And this is what Srila Sanatana Goswami, the senior disciple of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself, said about this book. It goes like this: Sarva Shastra Dipiyusha Sarva Vedaika Satpala Sarva Siddhanta Ratnaja Sarva Lokaika Drikprada. O nectar from the ocean of all scriptures, singular fruit of all the Vedas, rich mine of the precious gems of all conclusive truths, you are the only giver of sight to all the worlds. Sarva Bhagavata Prana Srimad Bhagavata Prabhu Kalidwan Dudita Ditya Sri Krishna Parivartita. O life air of all the Supreme Lord's devotees, O Master Srimad Bhagavatam, you are the sun risen in the darkness of Kali. You are the exact image of Sri Krishna. Paramananda Pataya Prema Varshakshadayate Sarvada Sarvasevyaya Sri Krishnaya Namostume. I bow down to you who were supremely blissful to read. Your every syllable pours down a flood of prema. You can always be served by everyone. You are Sri Krishna himself. Madhika Bando Matsangim Madguna Mahadana Mandistadaka Madbhagya Mad Ananda Namostute. My only friend, my constant companion, my spiritual master, my great wealth, my savior, my good fortune, my source of ecstasy, I bow down to you. Sadhu Sadhu Tadayin Achini Chochatakara Hanamuncha Gadachin Mam Premna Rit Kantayospura. O bestower of saintliness to the unsaintly, O exalter of the most fallen, please never leave me. Always appear in my heart and my voice with pure love. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay. Did I say 4 or 6? 4. Huh? 4. So we're continuing with the activities of Rsabhadeva. Very frank and transparent descriptions of what material existence is and how to live in this material world without going away from spiritual life. Text number 4. An unchaste woman is very easily carried away by paramours, and it sometimes happens that her husband is violently killed by her paramours. If the yogi gives his mind a chance and does not restrain it, his mind will give facility to enemies like lust, anger, and greed, and they will doubtlessly kill the yogi. Purport. In this word, the word Pungschali refers to a woman who is easily carried away by men. Such a woman is never to be trusted. Unfortunately, in the present age, women are never controlled. According to the directions of the Shastras, women are never to be given freedom. When a child, a woman must be strictly controlled by her father. When she is young, she must be strictly controlled by her husband. And when she is old, she must be controlled by her elderly sons. If she is given independence and allowed to mingle unrestrictedly with men, she will be spoiled. A spoiled woman, being manipulated by paramours, might even kill her husband. This example is given here because a yogi, desiring to get free from material conditions, must always keep his mind under control. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur used to say that in the morning our first business should be to beat the mind with shoes 100 times. I prefer to yell at it. A little less painful. In this way, the mind can be kept under control. Hare Krishna Shubha. An uncontrolled mind and an unchaste wife are the same. An unchaste wife can kill her husband at any time, and an uncontrolled mind, followed by lust, anger, greed, madness, envy, and illusion, can certainly kill the yogi. When the yogi is controlled by the mind, he falls down into the material condition. One should be very careful of the mind, just as a husband should be very careful of an unchaste wife. Text 5. The mind is the root cause of lust, anger, pride, greed, lamentation, illusion, and fear. Combined, these constitute bondage to fruitive activity. What learned man would put faith in the mind? Purport. The mind is the original cause of material bondage. It is followed by many enemies such as anger, pride, greed, lamentation, illusion, and fear. The best way to control the mind is to engage it always in Krishna consciousness. Savai manat Krishna padabindayo. Since the followers of the mind bring about material bondage, we should be very careful not to trust the mind. Lord Rsabhadeva was the head of all kings and emperors within this universe. But assuming the dress and language of an avaduta, he acted as if dull and materially bound. Consequently, no one could observe his divine opulence. He adopted this behavior just to teach yogis how to give up the body. Nonetheless, he maintained his original position as a plenary expansion of Lord Vasudeva, Krishna. Remaining always in that state, he gave up his pastimes as Lord Rsabhadeva within the material world. If, following in the footsteps of Lord Rsabhadeva, one can give up his subtle body, there is no chance that one will accept a material body again. Purport. As Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 4:9, Janma karma chame divyam evam yo veditat vataha chaktva deham punarjanma naitimam eti sorjana. One who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arjuna. This is possible simply by keeping oneself an eternal servant of the Supreme Lord. One must understand his constitutional position and the constitutional position of the Supreme Lord as well. Both have the same spiritual identity. Maintaining oneself as a servant of the Supreme Lord, one should avoid rebirth in this material world. If one keeps himself spiritually fit and thinks of himself as an eternal servant of the Supreme Lord, he will be successful at the time he has to give up the material body. Text 7. Actually, Lord Rsabhadeva had no material body, but due to Yogamaya, he considered his body material, and therefore, because he played like an ordinary human being, he gave up the mentality of identifying with it. Following this principle, he began to wander all over the world. While traveling, he came to the province of Karnataka in South India and passed through Konka, Venka, and Kutaka. He had no plan to travel in this way, but he arrived near Kutakachala and entered a forest there. He placed stones within his mouth and began to wander through the forest naked and with his hair disheveled like a madman. Text 8. While he was wandering about, a wild forest fire began. This fire was caused by the friction of bamboos which were being blown by the wind. In that fire, the entire forest near Kutakachala and the body of Lord Rsabhadeva were burnt to ashes. Purport. Such a forest fire can burn the external bodies of animals, but Lord Rsabhadeva was not burned, although he apparently seemed so. Lord Rsabhadeva is the super soul of all living entities within the forest, and his soul is never burned by fire. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, Adayo Yam, the soul is never burned by fire. Due to Lord Rsabhadeva's presence, all the animals in the forest were also liberated from material engagement. Haribo. Shukadeva Goswami continued speaking to Maharaj Parikshit. My dear king, the king of Konka, Venka, and Kutaka, whose name was Arhat, heard of the activities of Rsabhadeva and imitating Rsabhadeva's principles, introduced a new system of religion. Taking advantage of Kali Yuga, the age of sinful activity, King Arhat, being bewildered, gave up the Vedic principles, which are free from risk, and concocted a new system of religion opposed to the Vedas. That was the beginning of the Jain Dharma. Many other so-called religions followed this atheistic system. Purport. When Lord Krishna was present on this planet, a person named Paundraka imitated the four-handed Narayana and declared himself the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He desired to compete with Krishna. Similarly, during the time of Lord Rsabhadeva, the king of Konka and Venka acted like a Paramahansa and imitated Lord Rsabhadeva. He introduced a system of religion and took advantage of the fallen condition of the people in this age of Kali. It is said in Vedic literatures that people in this age will be more inclined to accept anyone as the Supreme Lord and accept any religious system opposed to Vedic principles. The people in this age are described as Mandak Sumanda Mataya. Generally, they have no spiritual culture, and therefore they are very fallen. Due to this, they will accept any religious system. Due to their misfortune, they forget the Vedic principles. Following non-Vedic principles in this age, they think themselves the Supreme Lord and thus spread the cult of atheism all over the world. Text 10. People who are lowest among men and bewildered by the illusory energy of the Supreme Lord will give up the original Varnashram Dharma and its rules and regulations. They will abandon bathing 3 times daily and worshipping the Lord. Abandoning cleanliness and neglecting the Supreme Lord, they accept nonsensical principles. Hare Krishna Mataji, Hare Bol. Abandoning cleanliness and neglecting the Supreme Lord, they will accept nonsensical principles, not regularly bathing or washing their mouths regularly. They will always remain unclean, and they will pluck out their hair. Following a concocted religion, they will flourish. During the age of Kali, People are more inclined to irreligious systems. Consequently, these people will naturally deride Vedic authority, the followers of Vedic authority, the Brahmanas, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the devotees. Purport. Presently, the hippies in the Western countries fit this description. They are irresponsible and unregulated. They do not bathe and they deride standard Vedic knowledge. They concoct new lifestyles and religions. There are many hippie groups at the present moment, but they all originated from King Arhat, who imitated the activities of Lord Rsabhadeva, who was situated on the Paramahansa stage. King Arhat did not care for the fact that although Lord Rsabhadeva acted like a madman, his stool and urine were nonetheless aromatic, so much so that they nicely scented the countryside for miles around. The followers of King Arhat went under the name Jains, and they were later followed by many others, particularly by the hippies, who were more or less offshoots of Mayavad philosophy because they think themselves the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Such people do not respect the real followers of Vedic principles, the ideal Brahmanas. Nor do they have respect for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Supreme Brahman. Due to the influence of this age, of Kali, they are apt to concoct false religious systems. Text 11. Low-class people, due to their gross ignorance, introduce a system of religion that deviates from the Vedic principles. Following their own mental concoctions, they automatically fall down into the darkest regions of existence. Purport. In this connection, one may see Bhagavad Gita chapter 16, where there is a description of the downfall of the Asuras, 16:16 and 16:23. Text 12. In this age of Kali, people are overwhelmed by the modes of passion and ignorance. Lord Rsabhadeva incarnated himself to deliver them from the clutches of Maya. Purport. The symptoms of Kali Yuga are predicted in the 12th canto, 3rd canto, 3rd chapter of Srimad-Bhagavatam. Lavanyam Keshadaranam. It is predicted how fallen souls will behave. They will keep their hair long and consider themselves very beautiful, or they will pluck out their hair, as the Jains do. They will keep themselves unclean and will not wash their mouths. Jains refer to Lord Rsabhadeva as their original preceptor. If such people are serious followers of Rsabhadeva, they must also take his instructions. In the 5th chapter of this canto, Rsabhadeva gave his 100 sons instructions whereby they could become free from the clutches of Maya. If one actually follows Rsabhadeva, he will become delivered from the clutches of Maya and return home, back to Godhead. If one strictly follows the instructions of Rsabhadeva given in the 5th chapter, he will certainly be liberated. Lord Rsabhadeva incarnated specifically to deliver these fallen souls. Text 13. Learned scholars chant about the transcendental qualities of Lord Rsabhadeva in this way. Oh, this earthly planet contains 7 seas and many islands and lands, of which Bharatvarsha is considered the most pious. People of Bharatvarsha are accustomed to glorifying the activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his incarnations as Lord Rsabhadeva and others. All these activities are very auspicious for the welfare of humanity. Purport. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Bharata bhumite haila manusya janma jar, janma sartaka kari, karapada upakar. CC Adi 941. As stated in this verse, Bharatvarsha is a most pious land. The followers of Vedic literature understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his different incarnations, and they are privileged to glorify the Lord by following the directions of Vedic literature. After realizing the glories of human life, such people should take up the mission to spread the importance of human life throughout the whole world. This is the mission of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The word Adipunyam indicates that there are certainly many other pious men throughout the world, but the people of Bharatavarsha are even more pious. Therefore they are fit to spread Krishna consciousness throughout the world for the benefit of all human society. Srila Madhvacharya also recognizes the land of Bharatavarsha, Viveshad Bharate Punyam. Throughout the world, there is no question of Bhagavad Bhakti or devotional service, but the people of Bharatavarsha can easily understand the devotional service of the Lord. Thus, every inhabitant of Bharatavarsha can perfect his life by discharging Bhagavad Bhakti and then preaching this cult throughout the world for the benefit of everyone. Text 14. Oh, what shall I say of the dynasty of Priyavrata, which is pure and very much celebrated. In that dynasty, the Supreme Person, the original personality of Godhead, descended as an incarnation and executed religious principles that could free one from the results of fruitive activity. Purport. There are many dynasties in human society wherein the Supreme Lord descends as an incarnation. Lord Krishna appeared in the Yadu dynasty, and Lord Ramachandra appeared in the Ikshvaku or Raghu dynasty. Similarly, Lord Rsabhadeva appeared in the dynasty of King Priyavrata. All these dynasties are very famous, and of them, the dynasty of Priyavrata is most famous. Text 15. Who is that mystic yogi who can follow the examples of Lord Rsabhadeva, even within his mind? Lord Rsabhadeva rejected all kinds of yogic perfection, which other yogis hankered to attain. Who is that yogi who can compare to Lord Rsabhadeva? Purport. Generally, yogis desire the yogic perfections of anima, laghima, mahima, prakamya, prapti, ishitva, mishitva, and kamavasayita. Lord Rsabhadeva, however, never aspired for all these material things. Such siddhis, perfections, are presented by the illusory energy of the Lord. The real purpose of the yoga system is to achieve the favor and shelter of the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But this purpose is covered by the illusory energy of Yogamaya. So-called yogis are therefore allured by the superficial material perfections of anima, laghima, prapti, and so forth. Consequently, ordinary yogis cannot compare to Lord Rsabhadeva, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Text 16. Shukadeva Goswami continued, Lord Rsabhadeva is the master of all Vedic knowledge, human beings, demigods, cows, and brahmanas. I have already explained his pure transcendental activities, which will vanquish the sinful activities of all living entities. This narration of Lord Rsabhadeva's pastimes is the reservoir of all auspicious things. Whoever attentively hears or speaks of them, following in the footsteps of the acharyas, will certainly attain unalloyed devotional service to the lotus feet of Lord Vasudeva, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Purport. The teachings of Lord Rsabhadeva are for the people of all yugas, Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, and especially Kali Yuga. These instructions are so powerful that even in this age of Kali, one can attain perfection simply by explaining the instructions, following in the footsteps of the acharyas, or listening to the instructions with great attention. If one does so, one can attain the platform of pure devotional service to Lord Vasudeva. The pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and His devotees are recorded in Srimad-Bhagavatam, so that those who recite these pastimes and listen to them will become purified. Hare Krishna. Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. As a matter of principle, devotees should read, speak, and hear Srimad Bhagavatam persistently, 24 hours, daily, if possible. At least we're doing it every day. We're headed in the right direction. That is the recommendation of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Kirtaniyak Sara Hari. One should either chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra or read Srimad Bhagavatam and thereby try to understand the characteristics and instructions of the Supreme Lord, who appeared as Lord Rsabhadeva, Lord Kapila, and Lord Krishna. In this way, one can become fully aware of the transcendental nature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, one who knows the transcendental nature of the Lord's birth and activities attains liberation from material bondage and returns to Godhead. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Text 17. Devotees always bathe themselves in devotional service in order to be relieved from the various tribulations of material existence. By doing this, the devotees enjoy supreme bliss, and liberation personified comes to serve them. Nonetheless, they do not accept that service, even if it is offered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead Himself. For the devotees, liberation, mukti, is very unimportant, because having attained the Lord's transcendental loving service, they have attained everything desirable and have transcended all material desires. Purport. Devotional service unto the Lord is the highest attainment for anyone thirsting, desiring liberation from the tribulations of material existence. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 6.22, Yam labdva chapadam labam manyate nadikam tataha. Gaining this, one thinks there is no greater gain. When one attains the service of the Lord, which is not different from the Lord, one does not desire anything material. Mukti means relief from material existence. Bilva Mangal Thakur says, Mukti Mukuli Tachanjali Sevate Sman. Mukun Litanjali Sevate Sman. For a devotee, mukti is not a very great achievement. Mukti means being situated in one's constitutional position. The constitutional position of every living being is that of the Lord's servant. Therefore, when a living entity is engaged in the Lord's loving service, he has already attained mukti. Consequently, a devotee does not aspire for mukti, even if it is offered by the Supreme Lord Himself. Text 18. Shukadeva Goswami continued, my dear king, the Supreme Person Mukunda is actually the maintainer of all the members of the Pandava and Yadu dynasties. He is your spiritual master, worshipable deity, friend, and the director of your activities. To say nothing of this, he sometimes serves your family as a messenger or servant. This means that he worked just as ordinary servants do. Those engaged in getting the Lord's favor attain liberation from the Lord very easily, but He does not very easily give the opportunity to render direct service unto Him. Purport. While instructing Maharaj Parikshit, Shukadeva Goswami thought it wise to encourage the king, because the king might be thinking of the glorious position of various royal dynasties. Especially glorious is the dynasty of Priyavrata, in which the Supreme Lord Rsabhadeva incarnated. Similarly, the family of Uttanapad Maharaj, the father of Maharaj Dhruva, is also glorious due to King Pritu's taking birth in it. The dynasty of Maharaj Raghu is glorified because Lord Ramachandra appeared in that family. As far as the Yadu and Kuru dynasties are concerned, they existed simultaneously, but of the two, the Yadu dynasty was more glorious due to the appearance of Lord Krishna. Maharaj Parikshit might have been thinking that the Kuru dynasty was not as fortunate as the others, because the Supreme Lord did not appear in that family, neither as Krishna, Lord Ramachandra, Lord Rsabhadeva, or Maharaj Prithu. Therefore, Parikshit Maharaj was encouraged by Shukadeva Goswami in this particular verse. The Kuru dynasty may be considered more glorious due to the presence of devotees, like the 5 Pandavas, who rendered unalloyed devotional service. Although Lord Krishna did not appear in the Kuru dynasty, he was so obligated to the Pandavas' devotional service that he acted as the maintainer of the family and spiritual master of the Pandavas. Although he took birth in the Yadu dynasty, Lord Krishna was more affectionate to the Pandavas. By his actions, Lord Krishna proved that he was more inclined to the Kuru dynasty than the Yadu dynasty. Indeed, Lord Krishna, indebted to the Pandavas' devotional service, sometimes acted as their messenger. And he guided them through many dangerous situations. Therefore, Maharaj Parikshit should not have been saddened because Lord Krishna did not appear in his family. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is always inclined toward His pure devotees, and by His action it is clear that liberation is not very important for the devotees. Lord Krishna easily gives one liberation, but He does not so easily give one this facility, the facility to become a devotee. Muktim dadhati kadachit sma nabhakti yogam. Directly or indirectly, it is proved that Bhakti Yoga is the basis for the supreme relationship with the Supreme Lord. It is far superior to liberation. For a pure devotee of the Lord, mukti is automatically attained. Text 19. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Rsabhadeva, was fully aware of his true identity. Therefore he was self-sufficient, and he did not desire external gratification. There was no need for him to aspire for success, since he was complete in himself. Those who unnecessarily engage in bodily conceptions and create an atmosphere of materialism are always ignorant of the real self-interest. Out of his causeless mercy, Lord Rsabhadeva taught the self's real identity and the goal of life. We therefore offer our respectful obeisances unto the Lord, who appeared as Lord Rsabhadeva. Purport. This is the summary of this chapter, in which the activities of Lord Rsabhadeva are described. Being the Supreme Personality of Godhead Himself, Lord Rsabhadeva is complete in Himself. We living entities, as parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord, should follow the instructions of Lord Rsabhadeva and become self-sufficient. We should not create unnecessary demands due to the bodily conception. When one is self-realized, he is sufficiently satisfied due to being situated in his original spiritual position. As confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 1854, Brahmabhuta prasanatma nashochati nakankshati. This is the goal of all living entities. Even though one may be situated within this material world, he can become fully satisfied and devoid of hankering and lamentation simply by following the instructions of the Lord as set forth in Bhagavad Gita or Srimad-Bhagavatam. Satisfaction through self-realization is called Sarupananda. The conditioned soul, eternally sleeping in darkness, does not understand his self-interest. He simply tries to become happy by making material adjustments. But this is impossible. It is therefore said in Srimad-Bhagavatam, Nate vidu swartagatim hi Vishnum. Due to gross ignorance, the conditioned soul does not know that its real self-interest is to take shelter at the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu. To try to become happy by adjusting the material atmosphere is a useless endeavor. Indeed, it is impossible. By his personal behavior and instructions, Lord Rsabhadeva enlightened the conditioned soul and showed him how to become self-sufficient in his spiritual identity. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 5th canto, 6th chapter of Srimad-Bhagavatam, entitled The Activities of Lord Rsabhadeva. Chapter 7, the activities of King Bharat, the son of Rsabhadeva. In this chapter, the activities of King Bharat Maharaj, the emperor of the whole world, are described. Bharat Maharaj performed various ritualistic ceremonies, Vedic yagyas, and satisfied the Supreme Lord by his different modes of worship. In due course of time, he left home and resided in Hardwar and passed his days in devotional activities. Being ordered by his father, Lord Rsabhadeva, Bharat Maharaj married Panchajani, the daughter of Vishwarupa. After this, he ruled the whole world peacefully. Formerly, this planet was known as Ajanaba, and after the reign of Bharat Maharaj, it became known as Bharatvarsha. Bharat Maharaj begot 5 sons in the womb of Panchajani, and he named the sons Sumati, Rashtrabhit, Sudarshana, Avarana, and Dhumraketu. Bharat Maharaj was very rigid in executing religious principles and following in the footsteps of his father. He therefore ruled the citizens very successfully. Because he performed various yagyas to satisfy the Supreme Lord, he was personally very satisfied. Being of undisturbed mind, he increased his devotional activities unto Lord Vasudeva. Bharat Maharaj was competent in understanding the principles of saintly persons like Narada, and he followed in the footsteps of the sages. He also kept Lord Vasudeva constantly within his heart. After finishing his kingly duties, he divided his kingdom among his 5 sons. He then left home and went to the place of Pulaha, known as Pulahashram. There he ate forest vegetables and fruits and worshipped Lord Vasudeva with everything available. Thus he increased his devotion toward Vasudeva, and he automatically began to realize further his transcendental, blissful life. Due to his highly advanced spiritual position, there were sometimes visible in his body the Ashta-sattvika transformations, such as ecstatic crying and bodily trembling, which are symptoms of love of Godhead. It is understood that Maharaj Bharat worshipped the Supreme Lord with the mantras mentioned in the Rig Veda, generally known as Gayatri Mantra, which aim at the Supreme Narayana, situated in the sun, within the sun. Text 1. Shukadeva Goswami continued speaking to Maharaj Parikshit. My dear king, Bharat Maharaj was a topmost devotee. Following the orders of his father, who had already decided to install him on the throne, he began to rule the earth accordingly. When Bharat Maharaj ruled the entire globe, he followed the orders of his father and married Panchajani, the daughter of Vishwarupa. Text 2. Just as the false ego creates the subtle sense objects, Maharaj Bharat created 5 sons in the womb of Panchajani, his wife. These sons were named Sumati, Rashtrabrit, Sudarshana, Avarana, and Dhumaketu. Text 3. Formerly this planet was known as Ajanaba Barsha, but since Maharaj Bharat's reign, it has become known as Bharatabarsha. Purport. This planet was formerly known as Ajanaba because of the reign of King Nabi. After Bharat Maharaj ruled the planet, it became celebrated as Bharatabarsha. Text 4. Maharaj Bharata was a very learned and experienced king on this earth. He perfectly ruled the citizens, being himself engaged in his own respective duties. Maharaj Bharata was as affectionate to the citizens as his father and grandfather had been. Keeping them engaged in their occupational duties, he ruled the earth. Purport. It is most important that the chief executive rule the citizens by keeping them fully engaged in their respective occupational duties. Some of the citizens were Brahmanas, some were Kshatriyas, and some were Vaishyas and Shudras. It is the duty of the government to see that the citizens act according to these material divisions for their spiritual advancement. No one should remain unemployed or unoccupied in any way. One must work as a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, or Shudra on the material path, and on the spiritual path, every point should act as a brahmachari, grihastha, vanaprastha, or sannyasi. Although formerly the government was a monarchy, all the kings were very affectionate toward the citizens, and they strictly kept them engaged in their respective duties. Therefore, society was very smoothly conducted. Text 5. With great faith, King Bharata performed various kinds of sacrifice. He performed the sacrifices known as Agnihotra, Darsha, Purnamasa, Chaturmasya, and Pashu Yagya, wherein a horse is sacrificed, and Soma Yagya, when a kind of beverage is offered. Sometimes these sacrifices were performed completely and sometimes partially. In any case, in all the sacrifices, the regulations of Chaturhotra were strictly followed. In this way, Bharat Maharaj worshipped the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Purport. Animals like horses and cows were offered in sacrifice to test the proper execution of the sacrifice. Otherwise, there was no purpose in killing the animal. Actually, the animal was offered in the sacrificial fire to get a rejuvenated life. Generally, an old animal was sacrificed in the fire, and it would come out again in a youthful body. Some of the rituals, however, did not require animal sacrifice. In the present age, animal sacrifices are forbidden. As stated by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Ashramedam Gavalambam Sannyasam Palapaitrikam Devarena Sutotpatim Kalau Pancha Vivarjayat. In this age of Kali, 5 acts are forbidden: the offering of a horse in sacrifice, the offering of a cow in sacrifice, the acceptance of the order of sannyas, the offering of oblations of flesh to the forefathers, and a man's begetting children in his brother's wife. C.C. Adi 17, 164. Such sacrifices are impossible in this age due to the scarcity of expert brahmanas or ritbija who are able to take the responsibility. In the absence of these, the Sankirtan Yajna is recommended. Yajnai, Sankirtana Prayar, Yajanti Sumedasaha. Srimad-Bhagavatam 11.5, 32. After all, sacrifices are executed to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Yagyartha, Karma. Such activities should be carried out for the Supreme Lord's pleasure. In this age of Kali, the Supreme Lord, in his incarnation of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, should be worshipped with his associates by performance of Sankirtan Yajna, the congregational chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra. This process is accepted by intelligent men. Jagyai Sankirtana Prayar Yajantihi Sumedasaha. The word Sumedasha refers to intelligent men who possess very good brain substance. Text 6. After performing the preliminaries of various sacrifices, Maharaj Bharat offered the results in the name of religion to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudeva. In other words, he performed all the yajnas for the satisfaction of Lord Vasudeva, Krishna. Maharaj Bharat thought that since the demigods were different parts of Vasudeva's body, he controls those who are explained in the Vedic mantras. By thinking in this way, Maharaj Bharat was freed from all material contamination, such as attachment, lust, and greed. When the priests were about to offer the sacrificial ingredients into the fire, Maharaj Bharata expertly understood how the offering made to different demigods was simply an offering to the different limbs of the Lord. For instance, Indra is the arm of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and Surya, the sun, is his eye. Thus Maharaj Bharat considered that the oblations offered to different demigods were actually offered unto the limbs of Lord Vasudeva. Purport. The Supreme Personality of Godhead says that as long as one does not develop the pure devotional service of Shravanam Kirtanam, hearing and chanting, one must carry out his prescribed duties. Since Bharat Maharaj was a great devotee, one may ask why he performed so many sacrifices that are actually meant for karmis. The fact is that he was simply following the orders of Vasudeva. As Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Sarvadharman Parityajya Mamekam Sharanam Braja. Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. Bhagavad Gita 18:66. Whatever we do, we should constantly remember Vasudeva. People are generally addicted to offering obeisances to various demigods, but Bharat Maharaj simply wanted to please Lord Vasudeva. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, Bhoktaram Yajna Tapasam Sarvaloka Maheshwaram. Bhagavad Gita 5:29. A yajna may be carried out to satisfy a particular demigod, but when the yajna is offered to the yajna Purusha, Narayana, the demigods are satisfied. The purpose of performing different yajnas is to satisfy the Supreme Lord. One may perform them in the name of different demigods or directly. If we directly offer obeisances to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the demigods are automatically satisfied. If we water the root of a tree, the branches, twigs, fruits, and flowers are automatically satisfied. When one offers sacrifices to different demigods, one should remember that the demigods are simply parts of the body of the Supreme. If we worship the hand of a person, we intend to satisfy the person himself. If we massage a person's legs, we do not really serve the legs, but the person who possesses the legs. All the demigods are different parts of the Lord, and if we offer service to them, we actually serve the Lord himself. Demigod worship is mentioned in Brahma Samhita, but actually the shlokas advocate worship of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Govinda. For instance, worship of the goddess Durga is mentioned this way in Brahma Samhita 544. Shristi stiti pralaya sadhana shakti reka chayeva yasya bhuvanani vibharti Durga ichchanu rupam apiyasya chateshtate sa govindam adipurusham tamaham bhajami. Following the orders of Sri Krishna, the goddess Durga creates, maintains, and annihilates. Sri Krishna also confirms this statement in Bhagavad Gita, Maya Dyakshana Prakriti, Maya Dyakshana Prakriti, Suyate Sacharacharam. This material nature is working under my direction, O son of Kunti, and it is producing all moving and unmoving beings. Bhagavad Gita 9:10. We should worship the demigods in that spirit. Because the goddess Durga satisfies Krishna, we should therefore offer respect to goddess Durga. Because Lord Shiva is nothing but Krishna's functional body, we should therefore offer respect to Lord Shiva. Similarly, we should offer respect to Brahma, Agni, and Surya. There are many offerings to different demigods, and one should always remember that these offerings are usually meant to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Bharat Maharaj did not aspire to receive some benediction from demigods. His aim was to please the Supreme Lord. In Mahabharata, among the 1,000 names of Vishnu, it is said, Yagya Bhug, Yagya Krid, Yagya, the enjoyer of sacrifice, the performer of Yagya, and Yagya itself are the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Lord is the performer of everything, but out of ignorance, the living entity thinks that he is the actor. As long as we think we are the actors, we bring about karma bandha, bondage to activity. If we act for Yagya, for Krishna, there is no karma bandha. Yagyartat kamanonyatra lokoyam karma bandhanaha. Work done as a sacrifice for Vishnu has to be performed. Otherwise, work binds one to this material world. Bhagavad Gita 3:9. Following the instructions of Bharat Maharaj, we should act not for our personal satisfaction, but for the satisfaction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In Bhagavad Gita 17:28 it is also stated, Ashadaya hutam datam, tapastaptam kritam chayat, asad it yuchate paratam, nachatat pretyahono iha. Sacrifices, austerities, and charities performed without faith in the Supreme Personality of Godhead are non-permanent. Regardless of whatever rituals are performed, they are called asat, non-permanent. They are therefore useless both in this life and the next. Kings like Maharaj Ambarish and many other Rajarshis, who were pure devotees of the Lord, simply passed their time in the service of the Supreme Lord. When a pure devotee executes some service through the agency of another person, he should not be criticized, for his activities are meant for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord. A devotee may have a priest perform some karma kanda, and the priest may not be a pure Vaishnava, but because the devotee wants to please the Supreme Lord, he should not be criticized. The word apurva is very significant. The resultant actions of karma are called apurva. When we act piously or impiously, immediate results do not ensue. We therefore wait for the results, which are called apurva. The results are manifest in the future. Even when the smartas accept this, even the smartas accept this apurva. Pure devotees simply act for the pleasure of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, the results of their activities are spiritual or permanent. They are not like those of the karmis, which are non-permanent. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 4.23. Gatasangyasya muktasya jnanavasti chetasaha jagyaya charata karma samagram praviliyate. The work of a man who is unattached to the modes of material nature and who is fully situated in transcendental knowledge merges entirely into transcendence. A devotee is always free from material contamination. He is fully situated in knowledge, and therefore his sacrifices are intended for the satisfaction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. What a purport. So we'll stop the reading there for tonight and start our wonderful portion of our nightly sacrifice, the open mic part. So we have a mic, and I want you to start today turning this around whenever anybody speaks so they can get into the picture. Uncle John, who will be called Honest John tomorrow, he reclaimed his handle.
I just wanted to read this part. I thought this was good. If one strictly follows the instructions of Rsabhadeva given in the 5th chapter, he will certainly be liberated. Lord Rsabhadeva incarnated specifically to deliver these fallen souls.
There you go.
Study the 5th chapter.
Yes. And it's that chapter that we were speaking about before that is full of verses that Srila Prabhupada, that peppers Srila Prabhupada's classes and his purports and all the other books. Very, very important. Them and the teachings of Prahlad Maharaj. Yes, Bhakti Doug.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. In text 2 of chapter 7, it makes a comparison where it says, just as the false ego creates the subtle sense objects, Maharaj Bharat created 5 sons in the womb of Panchajani, his wife. Can you just explain a little bit the process of the false ego creating the subtle sense objects?
Yes, because when the pure spirit soul enters into the material world, the first energy that it touches is the false ego. False ego is the first transformation of the Mahat Tattva. Remember? Yeah. Can you remember the process of creation? What part of the process of creation is the Mahat Tattva?
That's the total material energy, correct?
Total material intelligence, or total material energy, yeah. But it's different than the Pradhan. The Pradhan is the material energy, just the atoms, or the. It's like a cloud. I think the material scientists would call it the cosmic soup, and they want to think that an explosion happened and somehow or other. Anyway, they have different theories about it, but one of them is there was a cosmic soup and it combined together. So there's some truth in it, but they don't know exactly what happened because they weren't there and they couldn't see it. but we're hearing this description from personalities who were actually there and saw it happen. That's what makes this teaching vijnana instead of jnana. It's experienced knowledge, or experiment. It's realized knowledge, or practically applied knowledge. So when the material energy comes out of the body of Mahavishnu, it's the pradhan, and it's eternal. It sometimes comes into the body of the Lord, and sometimes comes out, but the actual material energy is conserved, which some of our great scientists of this modern age also confirmed, that energy is conserved. Then when Mahavishnu glances at that pradhan, and through his eyes, the souls are come into existence, through his breathing and through his pores, seeds of universes come. The super soul also enters into each atom, and prepared to later become the companions of the souls while they're in the material world. So that stage of the creation of the material world, the cosmic manifestation, is called the Mahatattva. When the pradhan and the souls and the super soul and the seeds of the universes mix, then there's transformation that happens. That's why it's described that matter cannot be the cause of life. Because until the Lord injected the spiritual energy into that inert material energy, nothing happened. So when that starts to transform, then things happen. And the first transformation is false ego. And then that false ego transforms further into passion, goodness, and ignorance. So that's how the false ego creates how is it worded? Creates the...
Sure. Just as the false ego creates the subtle sense objects.
Yes. False ego creates the subtle sense objects because it is the transformation of the false ego into goodness and passion and ignorance. And the mental energy is created out of the transformation of goodness, the intellectual energy out of ignorance, and the senses and the objects of the senses and the parts of these senses are created out of the mode of ignorance and false ego.
Okay.
Is it clear?
It's difficult, but I have some...
Each time you hear it, it gets clear. And if you can explain it clearly all the way through, in all detail, then you become eligible for liberation.
Okay.
That's what it means, tatpataha.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna. Anyone else? Sorry, but you must have something. You always have something. Local Saint Sarva will speak now.
It mentions this King Arhat who presented a non-Vedic teaching which became known as Jainism. And what would be the difference between, like Buddha taught a non-Vedic teaching, but he's sometimes seen in a positive light, but what would be the difference between King
The difference is that Buddha was an incarnation of Krishna and that Arhat was a materialist. That would be like the difference between Vasudeva Krishna and Pondraka, as was described in the purport. So Arhat was imitating, and he manufactured a philosophy and followed it to put people farther into ignorance and away from the true path of religion. Now, in some of these Like for instance, the imitation Kapila and the real Kapila, the son of Devahuti, they have some elements that are similar. That's why it's hard for an uninformed person to tell the difference. You know, the Kapila Dev also, the imitation Kapila Dev also explained Sankhya philosophy. But the conclusion of his Sankhya philosophy was impersonal. Whereas the conclusion of the real Kapila Dev, the son of Devahuti, was pure devotional service. Whole chapters developed dedicated to it in the Srimad-Bhagavatam. Third canto.
In textbooks, we have studied that the Jainism came from Mahavir Jain, when we were in school. But here in Srimad Bhagavatam, it mentions it's from some king named Arhat.
Yes.
And also now, people say Jainism is like based on the teachings of Rsabhadeva, but it's actually not according to the...
Yes. That's why it says in here that Arhat claimed to be follower of Rsabhadeva.
But he's not a follower because he concocted the teachings of
Imitated.
Rsabhadeva. Yeah.
He imitated. Hare Krishna. It's exactly 7:45, and we have to crank up our reading tomorrow morning again. And Shweta was kindly agreed to help and learn how to do the reading, and also she's going to help do some. So we're going to hopefully we'll be able to increase the quantity of production of the Chaitanya Charitamrita soon. Anything else?
One quick question.
Yes.
Earlier we read that dynasty of Priyavrata is more important than other, like Raghu dynasty and all. Why do you think? Because devotees are in this?
Prithu Maharaj. Each one of those dynasties was described to be auspicious because there was an actual incarnation of Krishna that appeared in it. And then you remember at the end it said, and Yadu dynasty is where Krishna appeared. The Kuru dynasty they're very intimately related, the Kuru and the Yadu dynasty, but they're a little different. So sometimes the Kuru dynasty is considered to be even more auspicious. Why?
Pandavas.
Because the Pandavas appeared in the Kuru dynasty. And Krishna was so affectionate to them that he would act as their servant. Whereas when he was with his family in Yadu dynasty, he was always the cynosure, he was always the center, and everyone was serving him. But in the Bhagavatamrita it is also described that when the hierarchy of devotional life and devotees who were devotees of different incarnations and different forms of Krishna, when it comes to who's higher, the Pandavas or the Yadus are considered to be higher because Krishna's family, and of them Uddhava was considered to be the highest. And that's because Uddhava was asked to go to Vrindavan and see the devotees of Braj, and ultimately the Brajvasis are considered to be the highest because there's no recognition of Krishna as the supreme, or they have equal relationships with him. Of course, they all know that he's the supreme, but their love for him is so enriched and so strong, so powerful, it covers over that knowledge of his godhood. And therefore they can act, intimately with him. They can chastise him. They can, think that he's lesser, and they can speak to him very intimately. And he's very pleased with that. He's more pleased with that than any of the other Vedic hymns or any of the prayers by any other devotees. And actually, I just heard Gopi Prandan Prabhu explain this, and it's also explained in the Brihad Bhagavatamrita in the 6th chapter of the 2nd part, how it is that the Brajbasis are actually the sources of all of the other, just as Krishna is the source of all other incarnations. It's all Krishna, the same person, but in different forms, manifesting different parts of his personality. Only Krishna manifests the full personality. And the example is given that if you have, you may have a relationship, an intimate relationship with your family, but when you go out and you act as a judge or as a businessman or politician or whatever, you have to hide parts of that. You don't ever talk as intimately as you do with your wife or your children. So like that, in the same way, Krishna is the same person in all of his incarnation forms, but he hides part of it. He doesn't exhibit his full personality. So then it's described that the Srimati Radharani, she expands herself. Whenever Krishna expands himself, she expands herself as his consort and assumes a form and a nature that's exactly suitable for the incarnation. And Nanda Maharaj, he expands himself into all of the father figures that act as Krishna's father. It's actually Nanda, but partial Nanda. And then when Krishna comes fully into the material world, or each universe in Vrindavan, then full Nanda Maharaj comes. And Srimati Radharani comes. The full ones come. And then when the queens come, then the gopis expand themselves and they become the 16,108 queens. Those are actually expansions of the different moods, the personified moods of Srimati Radharani are the gopis, the principal gopis. They're not jiva souls. They're Shakti Tattva, principal expansions of Radharani. And therefore Krishna enjoys all the different moods of Radharani in different forms. And they all expand into the queens when Vasudeva Krishna goes to Dwarka, and all of the gopis go to be with him as consorts, as his queens. So in this way, the mysteries of Krishna consciousness are very, very deep and very, they're more than interesting, they're fascinating. And the more we become fascinated by them, and then when we want to know more about them, and we actually hear, when it means to hear with rapt attention, it means to hear with full faith, with love, without argument. And then the full realization comes just from the process of hearing these things. Hare Krishna. I just went 8 minutes over. You got 2 minutes, no more.
Okay, so there's 5 rasas, and is it okay to say the topmost?
You can say the Adi Rasa, the source of all of the rasas.
That's what I was going to ask. So just how you were saying that all of the different aspects of Radharani's love for Krishna are manifested different,
No,
right?
no.
Right.
You didn't. I didn't say that. No. The conjugal humor has all kinds of unlimited varieties, and Krishna tastes them in different forms, in different places, with different expansions of Srimati Radharani. But Srimati Radharani is not an expansion of Nanda Maharaj. The fraternal, the filial, the paternal relationship are expansions of Nanda Maharaj. But in terms of categories of relationships, the Adirasa, or the conjugal relationship between Radha and Krishna, is the most dense and intimate. And all of the different forms of exchange are in the conjugal rasa. Therefore, it is considered to be the highest, or the deepest, or the intimate. But it's not. This is just to analyze it. But when you're there, you don't think like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that anybody in the spiritual world. It's not that cowherd boys think, "Oh man, here I'm only a cowherd boy. When am I going to become a gopi?" It's like that. It's like if the goal was for everybody to become a gopi, and you can visualize the spiritual world as just Krishna and gopis and nothing else, do you think Krishna will be satisfied with that? Do you think the gopis would be satisfied with that? So everything in Braj, it gets a flavor of service, but different moods. So the basis of the relationships is service. The gopis think of themselves as maidservants of Krishna. So how that love is exchanged is most intimate in that relationship. And Krishna, you can say, enjoys the most intense form of pleasure. But that doesn't mean that the cowherd boys are inferior. And those who think like that tend to not want to hear about the cowherd boys, or not want to hear about any of the other activities of Krishna or relationships that other pure devotees have with Krishna, even Vaikuntha. But the residents of Braj, they want to hear about all those things, and they do. Patience. It takes time to understand those things. Don't go too soon, too fast, otherwise you'll become confused. Just understand that the basic principle is service. When Sanatana Goswami came to Lord Chaitanya and asked, "Who am I?" Even though everybody says I'm such a great person, and he was a great person. He was like a chief minister, and great scholar, and But when he asked Lord Chaitanya, "Who am I?" he didn't say, "You're Manjari," because he was in Manjari in his original spiritual form. He said, "You're a servant of Krishna." The gopis think that everyone else is a devotee except for them. They never think that they're devotees. The cowherd boys, they sometimes think that and they compete, and they have a different relationship with Krishna. They'll think, "What kind of man are you? Look at this," and they'll fight, they'll wrestle in the forest. But the gopis are never like that. They're never like that. They don't have that feeling. But they compete in a different way, for Krishna's favor and for Krishna's attention. Anyway, that's a deep subject, and I just went way over my quota, so I'll stop here. Jai. Shri Krishna ki Jai. Rsabhadeva ki Jai. Srimad-Bhagavatam ki Jai. Samaveda Bhakta Binda ki Jai. Gaur Premanandi. See you tomorrow night. Same. What day is today? Thursday. Okay, same time, same station. Tomorrow, 6:30. Hare Krishna.